Starting and running a business is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're an established business owner or thinking about starting a side hustle to earn extra income, I am here to teach you how to show up as your unfiltered self, level up your business, and thrive as a mompreneur. Let's embrace the chaos and start enjoying the journey together. I'm Amy Traw, and you're listening to the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Welcome back, everyone. Another episode of the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast is coming at you today, sponsored by Everyday Custom Apparel by Jessica Harkness. She's a local mompreneur featuring custom apparel and school spirit wear. Visit www.sportswearcollection.com to learn more. So with me today, I am joined by a special guest who was a presenter for one of our masterminds over in our membership community, Dr. Meg Adams. She gave such value, and I just thought the value she shared needed to be spread to the whole world to hear. So thank you so much for coming back on with me today on the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast.
Thanks, Amy. I'm so excited to be here.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit more about yourself. You're a pretty incredible person.
Well, I appreciate that. Ditto. Yeah. So thank you. I currently own a business. So I live in Massillon, Ohio. I'm part of the Moms on a Mission. Thank you for this wonderful community, Amy. I've just so enjoyed getting to know women through this community. I own a video production business called Home Place Creative. So we do content marketing, but we specialize in video production. And so I've been doing that with my partner for 6 years. So we're excited. We've been in business a while. And then I also was a former journalist. So a lot of the networking that I've done and the skills that I learned as a journalist really have helped me to rethink the way that I approach people and learn about people and listen to people and share their stories. So that's my whole gig. And I also, as you mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned, but I am a professor. So I teach at the University of Findlay. So I've been to academic conferences, presented in that world as well. And so I hope that I can bring that knowledge to listeners today to help them understand a little more from each perspective that I have about how to build relationships with people, which is really what business is all about.
Absolutely. Relationships are totally key. And one of those ways to build those relationships is, like you said, going to different conferences.
Mm-hmm.
But that can feel scary for some people. I consider myself an introvert. So going into an unfamiliar situation, it's a little unnerving. And I think a lot of people experience that anxiety. So could you share with us some tips you have of how can we take away some of that anxiety that we feel like, okay, I'm going into this uncharted territory. What do I do? I want to run to the corner and just stand there by myself.
Amy, you said it exactly. And I just want to preface this advice that I'm going to give by saying I'm an extrovert. So like I'm a high ENFJ, I'm an Enneagram 3, I'm a DISC, I'm like a 96% influencer if people are familiar with the DISC. And I despised networking events. Okay. And it's not, I think it's because here's why. I know why. Because prior to kind of understanding business and how to grow business the way that I wanted to, I went into networking events with some of the same attitudes I bet your listeners are having right now. Like, I'm going to have to go listen to a bunch of people sell themselves. I'm going to have to give my 60-second elevator pitch, which why do they call it an elevator pitch? Like, and I just flipped my mindset, Amy, and I flipped my mindset from what can I get out of people in this situation to what can I give? Or what can I learn? And so when I approach sales and business that way, from an attitude of like, it's not about me, it's about them. Like I'm trying to learn more about their lives, learn more about their businesses, think about how I can help them. That has really taken that pressure off, but it's also made it more exciting when you think about going to a networking event, especially like you said, when you're going on your own. So a lot of these conferences, academic conferences especially, were really intimidating. And I would go, I'm flying on a plane, I'm going by myself. I don't know people. I'm staying in a hotel. This is like not my jam particularly. But then you have to go talk to a bunch of academics. So I think that when I stopped to see it as, like, one of my friends put it, as an ego fest, and started to really focus on giving, I think it just changed my entire mindset. And I've been so much more it's been so much more beneficial time-wise to be at these events. So that's the first thing I would say. And it seems hard, but it's just like a flip of perspective.
Yeah, mindset is so key. And I feel like this is something we almost touch upon every episode because
Mhm.
it is so important. And when you can make those small mindset shifts, that's when the change starts to happen.
Mhm.
So tell us more about your mindset. So when you're going in, you said, okay, I want to learn more about the other person. How do you start that conversation? What do you do?
Sure. Okay. So I really don't like the question, what do you do? I feel like we all get that. And it's okay if you've done it because I've done it too. So don't knock
We
yourself.
all
This is
have.
like, we're like, oh, what do you do? I actually just go in with like a much easier question, which will sometimes be like, have you been to this event before? Or like, if I was going to the confidence cells and they're like, how do you know Amy? Or like, how did you find out about Moms on a Mission? Or like, where do you live? Like, I try to find out pieces about people that like bring the veil of business and sales down and just like focus on getting to know people. So as a journalist, I would always do this before I got into like the meat of the interview. I would just be like, hey, where are you from? What are simple things like, do you have kids? Like, well, Mom's on a Mission. We know like there's this, how many kids do you
Right.
have? Because then you can make a connection. And if you make a connection, then the conversation will usually naturally lead to like, what do you do? But in a way that there's a foundation of knowledge and care about somebody's life. And that's like a true connection. Like that'll be the thing when you follow up on LinkedIn or via email, or maybe go visit their
Mhm.
store, like they'll remember you. Like those are the
Yeah.
things that we remember about people because we're asking about, it just shows that you want to get to know them and you're not interested on just from what you can get from them.
Exactly, which sometimes I think, I don't know, it's been ingrained in us that, you
It
have to go
is.
in with your elevator pitch. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay, here, I'm going to ask this person what I do or what they do, and then I'm going to have to go into my spiel about what I do. And it just feels awkward. And
It feels icky.
it does feel
I don't
icky.
I
That
don't
is
think
a
there's any other
perfect
way.
way. Right, exactly. Other than icky. And you just
Yeah.
don't leave feeling like you made that authentic connection. But,
Mm-hmm.
when you dive deep and you start asking these questions, you find sometimes you have the most random things in common. And I love finding that
Yeah.
out about people. I remember from your mastermind presentation, you were talking about chickens with one of the women at an event that you ran into. I mean, of all things, chickens. But it's crazy
Right.
how
Yeah.
many people have chickens now.
Yes. Well, it's enjoying the conversation. It's
Right.
enjoying, I think everybody enjoys the conversation. First of all, people like to talk about themselves. Okay. We all know
Mhm.
that. If you can hone your listening skills, to ask people questions that they feel comfortable talking about, like they're going to feel a deeper connection to you. And if they're, a like-minded individual, they'll ask you questions about yourself. And like you said, you can make those connections, but I like making those connections on a value-based model. So it's more like, let me get
Mhm.
to know you. Let me learn what your passions are, what you care about. And then I'm naturally going to understand more about your business. And also, this is where it can, I think, happen much more authentically and genuinely, as you mentioned. Like once I know your value system and maybe we do click over chickens, right? Or we click
Mhm.
over like our favorite, you know, whatever, I don't know, like coffee place or
Right,
something, right?
right.
Like we'll click and then I will naturally be like, oh, this is a person who I understand and I want to support. And
Yes.
then I'm genuinely going to be able to refer you out versus like, oh, I don't think we live in an environment where I don't know how to put this. We're just going to refer somebody out because we met them at a conference and got their card one time. Like
Right.
I just want to get to know you and see if you are a person that I click with. And if I don't click with you, that's fine too, right? I think
Right.
that's another thing
Exactly.
people don't understand about business is like you aren't not everybody might not be your ideal client, but they might be
Right.
somebody else's ideal client too, right?
Yes.
And I think
Yes.
that's a key point going into it. Just do you click? Do you not click? But have a genuine interest in people and their journeys before you try to sell them something.
Right. And it's that building of community. I can't tell you how many times I've referred another mom just because, all right, I may not be able to help you with this
Mhm.
particular service or something you're looking for or need help with, but I know someone who can. And again, it's building that community, that abundance mindset. And, when you start talking to people, isn't it crazy how small of a world this is?
Absolutely. 6 degrees of separation,
Oh my
right?
gosh,
Of
it's
course. Yeah.
insane. It's
Yeah.
absolutely insane. And I want to thank you because the strategies you taught me helped. I went to a conference a few weeks ago
Huh?
and I registered for it on a whim. I knew no one that was attending, but like you said, I went forward trying to learn more about them,
Mhm,
learning
mhm.
more about the other person, taking that spotlight off of myself, and it made it so much less awkward. I didn't feel as anxious. It's like, okay, I don't know what I'm getting myself into, but diving deep into learning more about them, it took that pressure off of me and was incredible. So for anybody that's like, I don't know, is it really that easy? Yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
It
It
is, isn't
really
it?
truly is.
Thank you for sharing that, Amy, because I
Right.
will say that was a big flip for me. And I think it's true. And you said it, everyone goes into these events where they feel like they have to perform. And when you
Right.
ask somebody a question about their lives, instead of like, what do you do? Like, hey, and again, those questions that are, you go into a group or you're feeling awkward or you're standing by yourself, like you see somebody else standing by themselves, hey, how'd you hear about Moms on a Mission? Or like, it can be simple, like, have you read a good book lately, or what are you into? Like, these questions put people at ease, and that's when you
Yes.
can have an authentic conversation. It's gonna be inauthentic if you're performing, which I think is why people, as you stated at the beginning, like, don't like networking events.
Right,
Right.
exactly. And then, it translates into sales because
Absolutely.
it comes easy then because
Mm-hmm.
you've learned about how you can serve that person best. You're
Mm-hmm.
not leading off the bat with, okay, I've got this course and you need to buy it. It's okay, can I genuinely serve this person? Maybe I know of a
Mm-hmm.
free resource they can even
Mm-hmm.
look into, but you're
Mm-hmm.
building that know, like, and trust factor by
Exactly.
being authentic, which
Absolutely.
doesn't feel icky. It takes that ick factor away, which is so vital. And I just think that
Yes.
is fabulous.
Yeah. And then the other piece I would add that's important, like if you do make a great connection, make sure that you're following up. So social media is a great way to follow up. I will do that. So I will do that within 24 hours usually. And
Mhm.
so I know you have people in your community who are like me and are time blockers. You use it.
Yep.
I will block time like right after a conference to write a personalized note to somebody, like the chickens. Like that's even
Yeah.
better if you find something, whatever you have in common. I met you at this conference, and oh my gosh, here's some tips about the chickens. I'm really excited to connect and follow you. And again, if you social media is a way to stay involved, stay in the conversation, and it allows them to see what you're doing too. I can't tell you, it was really interesting. I was looking at our sales numbers. I look at them every quarter. We're in a new quarter now,
Isn't it
Amy.
crazy? Fourth quarter
Yes, I
already.
can't believe it. And so one of the things I do is I track like where each client comes from. And let me tell you, most of them are referrals. But what was really interesting was beyond the referrals, I'm like, if you trace it back to that, like maybe one or two people, which I usually can do, I'm like, how did that person find me? And some of
Mhm.
them were like, one of them was a person I was in a workshop with 7 years ago. And
Yeah.
she was before I started my business. Now I've been researching storytelling for years. So they
Yeah.
know, people I think associate me with that at this point. But she was like, well, I knew you were doing video because we follow each other on LinkedIn. And I had this opportunity at work and you were the first person I thought of. 7 years, Amy. So, and I
Wow.
mean, it wasn't like we had talked every day, but we had made the connection in face to face, and she was
Mhm.
updated on what I was doing because she'd see it pop up in her newsfeed every once in a while. And so, then that person refers you to another person because you do
Right.
great work for them. So I really would tell people that, as you know, and I'm sure everybody has heard, like it really is about networking. But I
Yes.
like to think of it as like sowing seeds, because you're not, I think sometimes we get the wrong idea. And I know this happens in some industries, but it's you might go to a conference and meet somebody and have a great connection, and they might not even be your ideal client right now, but
Right.
they might know your ideal client, or they might be
Yes.
your ideal client 7 8 years down the road. And if you make a heartfelt connection with somebody, and you, again, then you follow up. And I love social media for this, because you can link up and you can stay a part of their journey. They can stay a part of yours, even if it's just popping in here and there and supporting each other. Then you really never know.
Right.
You're sowing seeds. I love that analogy. Like, you're just sowing seeds, and it's fun. I think we all, especially after the pandemic, are craving human connection. And
Oh,
this is a way to do
100%.
it that isn't about sales, but it is in a way, right?
Right, exactly, because you're magnetizing, that
Yes.
energy. You're
That's a great word.
attracting those
Mm-hmm.
ideal clients.
Mm-hmm.
You're putting yourself out there, which can be scary, but you're not having to fight for, okay, where am I going to find my next client? Where Because they're
Mm-hmm.
drawn to you. They
That's
know
it.
that you're offering these services. Even if you're hearing crickets, never know. Like you said, 7 years. This
Yep.
woman has been watching you, and
Mm-hmm.
she may not have engaged with every post, but
Mm-hmm.
she knew what you were doing because you kept showing up, because you
Mm-hmm.
put yourself out there and provided value, that
Mm-hmm.
when she did need you, it was like, oh yeah, Meg does this. I
Yep.
know her. I like
Mm-hmm.
her. I trust her. She's my girl.
Yep.
Boom, done. It's
Exactly.
easy,
Yeah.
but it's a slow grow.
Yeah.
It's not just
Yep.
instant
That's
success,
it.
but
Yeah.
I think it's more powerful. And I think in the long game,
I agree.
more beneficial
And
for sure.
it's m- it's just a better, more fulfilling experience overall. Instead
Yes,
of fighting, kind of fighting against something, like you said, it's like having people drawn to you and having that abundance mindset so that you don't feel desperate about. I know it's hard, especially when you
right.
start your business. It's so easy to compare yourself. It's so easy. I have worked with people who have had that mindset, and I think it really, oh man, it hurts you so much in business. It's hard, but I understand. Like, I empathize so deeply with that. It's something that I've had to work on myself, to say there's enough for all of us to
Right,
be in this space.
right.
And like you said, you just need to show up and make a genuine, like, if you can think of going into a networking event and just looking to make a genuine connection and not potentially like sell in the moment, the experience is going to be so much, one, more fruitful, but also more enjoyable, which will make you get momentum to want to do more of it.
Right, exactly. And it truly is about creating that momentum. And it's hard to
It
get
is.
into that abundance mindset, especially when you are first starting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I struggled with it as well. But when you dive into it, the psychology behind it is really interesting, because it
Mm-hmm.
all goes back to that primal scarcity. Okay, I need more, 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 more to
Absolutely.
survive. So it's
Mm-hmm.
ingrained in us. But once you identify it, then you can realize, okay, we can move past this now.
Yeah.
So that is phenomenal. And I'm so glad you touched upon that. Last week I heard a quote, and it was, "You are only one connection away from a completely different life." And that hit home, because
Wow.
you never know who's going to be in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
never know who you're going to get introduced to. So stepping out into these new experiences and situations, I think, is one of the scariest yet easiest ways to grow our business, because we are providing value. We're showing up. We're building those connections. We're sowing those seeds, like you said.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up too, Amy, because one of the things that helped me out, because I think it's not easy. Like, I hope listeners, they're like, yes, okay, maybe they're fired up and they're like, I'm going to try to do this. But then, like you said, it is definitely human nature. And I've worked on
Mhm.
this as well, to have that mindset. And I like the neuroscience behind it is fascinating.
It
I
is.
always
It
call
is.
it
I
like my
love it.
lizard brain. It's just trying to protect me, but we don't need this today.
Right.
Thank you. You have to become self-aware. But it's okay. So I'm saying this to say it's easy to fall back into like anxiety and like, oh, like, so
Yes.
one thing that I would also advise is, I started doing this before events because I still get nervous. I mean,
Mhm.
I speak all the time. I get nervous every time. I still, even though I have networked a lot, I do it a lot. It's not necessary. When I'm done, I'm always happy I did it. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
I always walk out, I'm like, oh, it was so great. But like, usually when I'm going to do it, I'm like, I have these moments of like, oh, do I want to do this today? I'd much rather just read a book, especially this time of year with,
Yeah.
my tea,
Same.
my hot,
Same.
yeah. So one thing that I do is to pump myself up, or to be it. What you said about mindset is absolutely critical. I have started, saying a prayer in the
Mhm.
car before I go into the event. And I actually do this before sales calls or meetings. Like I try to stay in the right mindset where like if there are people here that I can serve and who can be served by me, like it or like that I can help in any way. Like again, I don't know what this looks like, but please guide them to me. Please give me the right attitude walking in here. And then you can just meditate on that a little bit so that when you like right before so that when you walk into that space, you do show up with the energy and the energy that you want. I think that is really important too. It's just in that moment. Because I think we all get nervous and we all are going to very naturally want to perform or position ourselves,
Mhm.
like you said. But it's good to, if you go in the right spirit, I have found that that
Yes.
makes a difference. And you know who I read that from? You know who does that? Brene Brown does that.
She's
She
incredible. She is
I know,
amazing.
isn't that, and I read that. I was reading one of her books. There's like a little sentence or two somewhere where she says a little prayer every time before she gives a big presentation. And she says, let the audience take what they need. I hope somebody needs this. And it's like Brene Brown.
I know.
Brene Brown. So
Yes.
like if Brene Brown does this, yeah, of
Right.
course I'm gonna do it. But I will say that has been a game changer. And that's a little useful tip because you can do that anytime. You know, you could go to
Right.
the bathroom if you whatever you need, if you need that space, like it will put you back in that service oriented, value oriented. I'm here to make a
Yes.
genuine connection. Please help them find me. Please help me show up in a way that they will be attracted to me and then we'll find each other. I do believe in that. That I
Right.
know some people that's a little hippy dippy, but I truly believe it helps.
Hippy dippy. I love that. No, but it truly is beautiful what you touched upon because how often do we forget to breathe? How often do we forget to be in the
Yep.
moment? So
Yep.
just and even taking, I forget what the science is, like, a few deep breaths can totally
Absolutely.
calm down our
Hmm.
nervous system and get us out
Hmm.
of that fight or flight mode and bring us back to why we're truly here, what the mission truly is, what we're trying to accomplish.
Right. And you can be present and then you can listen. Right. And
Yes.
those are the two keys, I think,
E-
to solid networking.
Oh my gosh, incredible information. Well, Meg, you have done some pretty big things in your day. I'm going to want you to toot your own horn for a second because you have a TED Talk. You have done a TED Talk. Like
I did a TEDx talk, yeah, last year.
yeah. Yes.
Yes, it
So
was great. Yep.
there is some incredible information you can learn from Meg. So if you want to find more information about that, if you just go on YouTube and type it in, you can find it. Do you have an easier way? Is it linked on your social media page too?
Yeah. So
Perfect.
I'm at drmegadams.com too. Like you can find all my information there. So it's linked there. So that's
Right,
yeah.
right.
Yep.
So if you
Thanks,
are looking
Amy.
for more information, please be sure to check that out because the value that Meg brings to the table is truly incredible. And I truly
Me
appreciate you and your value and everything you stand for. I'm so glad our paths have crossed.
Me too. I was just having coffee with someone this morning and I was like, have you heard of Moms on a Mission? Because Amy
Oh,
is fantastic. There's a directory. It's so wonderful. And this is the power of connection. Like I stumbled
exactly.
across social media and here we are talking today. Right.
Right,
So that's
exactly.
another good
Yep.
example of how this can work.
Right. It's truly community over competition. It's
Mhm.
sharing our strengths and supporting one another. Well,
Yeah,
Meg, thank
absolutely.
you so much for taking time
Thank
out of
you,
your crazy
Amy.
busy life to chat with us today. You shared so many valuable nuggets of knowledge with us, and we can't wait to learn more about you. So be sure to check Meg out. And also, don't forget tickets are for confidence sales are on sale for one more week. We close ticket sales on October 19th. So to grab yours, visit themomsonamission.com.